What's going on, everyone? It's Ben 10 What If here. We've got something amazing for you today. What if Ben 10 was in One Punch Man universe? Real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join thousands of story lovers and hit that subscribe button. Alright, story time. Chapter 1, Alien Hero. In a strange world, the green energy portal tore open above City Z with a thunderous crack that shattered windows for blocks. Ben Tennyson tumbled through, arms windmilling as he plummeted toward the concrete below. Come on, come on. Ben frantically twisted the Omnitrix dial as the ground rushed up. Jet ray, big chill, anything that flies. The device flashed green just seconds before impact. For Arm's massive red body smashed into the street, creating a small crater but absorbing the fall. Not what I wanted, but I'll take it. Ben's deep Tetraman voice rumbled as he stood up, brushing concrete dust from his muscular forearms. Where the heck am I now? The cityscape around him looked vaguely Japanese, but something felt off. People stared from a distance, phones recording his every move. Ben had gotten used to attention over the years, but the way these civilians reacted seemed weirdly calm, like giant red aliens crashed into their streets every Tuesday. A businessman actually approached him, holding out what looked like an autograph book. What class hero are you? I haven't seen your costume before. Hero class. Ben's four eyes blinked in confusion. Look, I just need to. The rest of his sentence died as an explosion rocked the street behind him. Ben spun around to see what looked like a 20-foot crab monster with a human face tearing through cars and storefronts. Crabland will destroy this city, the creature bellowed. I ate too much crab and became a monster. Now you'll pay. Ben stared for a half-second before cracking his knuckles. I've seen some weird stuff, but that's a new one. The civilians scattered, screaming now, except one kid who yelled, "Don't worry. That's definitely an A-class hero. Look how big he is." A-class? Ben muttered, before shaking his massive head. Questions later. But kicking now. He charged toward Crabland, who swung a massive claw at him. For Arms caught it with his upper arms, the impact sliding him back several feet. A new hero? Crabland gurgled through his bizarre human crab mouth. Never seen you before. Yeah, well, you're about to see stars. Ben used his lower arms to deliver a massive uppercut that sent the crab monster flying backward into an abandoned bus. The creature recovered quickly, spitting what looked like toxic bubbles. Ben dodged left, then leaped forward with all four arms extended. He grabbed Crabland's claws and pinned them wide open, leaving the monster's face vulnerable. This is gonna hurt you way more than me, Ben grinned, head-butting the creature with enough force to crack its shell. Crabland howled in pain as Ben followed with a barrage of punches that reduced the monster to a twitching heap. The Omnitrix symbol on Ben's shoulder started beeping and flashing red. Great timing as always, he grumbled, dashing into a nearby alley just as the transformation wore off in a flash of red light. 19-year-old Ben Tennyson stood where four arms had been, brushing dust off his green jacket. 5 years of heroics had filled out his lanky teenage frame with lean muscle, but he still had the same messy brown hair and bright green eyes that matched his jacket. The Omnitrix on his wrist had evolved too, sleeker and more integrated with his body than the clunky watch it had once been. Alright, Paradox, very funny, Ben called out to the empty air. You can show up and explain what's going on anytime now. No time-traveling professor appeared. Ben frowned, examining the Omnitrix. The normally green display flickered with static. That can't be good. Ben stepped out of the alley to find a small crowd had gathered around the defeated Crabland. Several people were taking selfies with the unconscious monster. Hey! Ben called out. Maybe don't stand next to the giant crab thing. A teenage girl looked up from her phone. It's fine. Heroes defeat monsters all the time. The cleanup crew will be here soon. All the time. Just how many monsters do you guys get? The girl gave him an odd look. Are you not from around here? There's usually 3 or 4 attacks a week in City Z alone. City Z? Ben raised an eyebrow. Definitely not from around here. Before he could ask more questions, the crowd's attention shifted. They were pointing skyward and murmuring excitedly. Ben looked up to see a blond man in a sleek cybernetic body descending from above, jets of fire erupting from his palms. Demon cyborg, someone shouted. An S-class hero is here. The cyborg landed in front of the defeated Krablant, his expression severe as his glowing yellow eyes scanned the scene before settling on Ben. Witnesses report an unregistered hero with 4 arms defeated this tiger-level threat, the cyborg stated in a mechanically enhanced voice. Identify yourself. Ben scratched the back of his head. I'm Ben. Ben Tennyson. And I'm not exactly from here. Ben 10. The cyborg's eyes narrowed. You are not in the Hero Association database. Are you operating as a vigilante? Look, I don't know what a Hero Association is. I was chasing an interdimensional criminal named Ian when his portal went haywire. Next thing I know, I'm falling from the sky into whatever City Z is. The cyborg's arms transformed into massive cannons, aimed directly at Ben's chest. Dimensional travel claim suggests either delusion or infiltration. Probability of hostile intent, 67%. State your true purpose immediately. Ben raised his hands. Whoa. Easy with the armed cannons, RoboCop. I'm one of the good guys. Genos. What are you doing? A bald man in a yellow jumpsuit and white cape appeared between them, grocery bags in both hands. He looked thoroughly ordinary except for his ridiculous outfit and the intense look in his eyes. Master Saitama, the cyborg, apparently named Genos, lowered his cannon slightly. This individual claims to be from another dimension. He was witnessed transforming into a 4-armed creature to defeat Krablant. Saitama's expression remained blank as he looked Ben up and down. So? If he beat the monster, doesn't that make him a good guy? That's what I was trying to say. Ben exclaimed. Look, I've been dealing with aliens, mutants, and interdimensional bad guys since I was 10. This isn't my first rodeo. Saitama shrugged. See? Sounds like a hero to me. He turned to leave, then paused. Wait, did you say you can transform? Like, into different things? Yeah, with this. Ben held up his wrist, showing the Omnitrix. It's called the Omnitrix. Lets me transform into different alien species. How many? There was a flicker of interest in Saitama's otherwise bored expression. Over 70 at this point. I've lost count. Saitama's eyes widened slightly. That's, actually pretty cool. Master, Genos interjected, we cannot simply trust his claims without verification. He said he's stuck here, right? Saitama adjusted his grocery bags. Let him crash at our place until he figures things out. You can keep an eye on him. I don't want to impose, Ben started. It's no big deal, Saitama cut him off. We were heading home anyway. I'm making hot pot. But master, our apartment is barely large enough for, I'll sleep on the floor, Ben offered. Believe me, I've slept in way worse places. Genos looked like he wanted to argue further but instead nodded stiffly. Very well. But I will maintain surveillance protocols. He means he'll watch you while you sleep, Saitama translated, already walking away. Come on, these groceries are getting heavy. Ben hurried after them, mind racing. Whatever universe or dimension he'd landed in, it was nothing like his own. Heroes seemed to be organized like some kind of business, monsters attacked regularly, and nobody seemed particularly fazed by any of it. As they walked, Ben noticed people pointing and whispering at Saitama and Genos, mostly at Genos, actually. Several girls squealed and took photos of the cyborg, who ignored them completely. So you guys are famous heroes? Ben asked. Genos is, Saitama said with a hint of annoyance. I'm still working my way up the rankings. Master is the strongest hero in existence, Genos stated matter-of-factly. The association simply fails to recognize his true power. Rankings? Ben frowned. You mean heroes here are actually ranked against each other? Like a competition? The Hero Association ranks heroes from C-Class to S-Class based on their achievements and abilities, Genos explained. Master Saitama recently reached B-Class despite being capable of defeating any enemy with a single punch. Ben looked at Saitama with newfound interest. The guy didn't look like much, but Ben had learned long ago not to judge by appearances. One punch, huh? That's impressive. Saitama shrugged. It gets boring, actually. They arrived at an unremarkable apartment building in what appeared to be a largely abandoned part of the city. As they climbed the stairs, Ben felt the Omnitrix give a small shock against his wrist. Ow! He looked down to see the display flickering between green and red. That's definitely not normal. What's wrong with your watch thing? Saitama asked as he unlocked his apartment door. I'm not sure. It's never reacted like this before. Ben tapped the faceplate, bringing up a holographic display that fizzled with static. The quantum matrix is destabilized. Something about this dimension is interfering with it. Can you still use it? Genos asked, suddenly more interested. Ben twisted the dial, cycling through silhouettes of his aliens. I think so, but it looks like I'm limited to maybe 10 or 15 transformations until I can fix it. Saitama's apartment was tiny and sparse, just a single room with a kitchen area, a TV, a table, and a futon. Manga volumes were stacked neatly in one corner. Make yourself at home, Saitama said, dropping the groceries on the counter. Sorry it's small. It's fine, Ben said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. So, this Hero Association, how exactly does someone join? There's an entrance exam, Genos explained while Saitama began preparing dinner. Physical tests, written tests, and combat evaluation. And you get paid to be heroes? The concept seemed strange to Ben, who had always operated independently. It's a job, Saitama called from the kitchen. Bills don't pay themselves. Ha! Ben considered this. If I'm stuck here for a while, maybe I should sign up. At least until I figure out how to get home. With your transformation abilities, you could potentially reach A-Class quickly, Genos assessed. Though S-Class requires exceptional power. Or you could just punch everything really hard, Saitama added, chopping vegetables with surprising skill. Ben spent the rest of the evening explaining his situation in more detail, his history with the Omnitrix, his enemy Ian, and the dimensional portal malfunction. Genos remained skeptical, but Saitama seemed to accept the story without question. Dimension stuff, time travel, whatever, the bald hero said through a mouthful of hot pot. Weird things happen all the time here. Master faced an ancient being from space just last month, Genos added. Your story is not the strangest we have encountered. As promised, Ben slept on the floor that night, using his jacket as a pillow. He woke several times to find Genos sitting perfectly still in the corner, yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. Creepy, but Ben had dealt with worse. Morning brought a quick breakfast and a decision. Ben would accompany Genos to the Hero Association headquarters to register for the entrance exam. I'll need to establish some kind of identity here, Ben said, scrolling through alien forms on the Omnitrix. At least I've got enough transformations working to make an impression. Just don't show off too much, Saitama advised, lounging on his futon reading manga. The hero business gets weird when you're too strong. Says the guy who beats everything with one punch, Ben chuckled. Exactly. The Hero Association headquarters turned out to be a massive skyscraper that dominated the skyline of City A, Ben whistled as they approached. You guys don't do anything small, do you? The association generates billions in revenue through merchandising, sponsorships, and government funding, Geno stated. They can afford ostentation. The lobby was bustling with activity, heroes in colorful costumes, staff in suits, and what appeared to be fans seeking autographs. Ben received curious glances, particularly at the Omnitrix on his wrist. At the registration desk, a woman in a crisp uniform looked up from her computer. Demon Cyborg. An honor to have an S-Class hero visit us today. How can we assist you? This individual wishes to register for the hero examination, Genos indicated Ben. The woman turned her attention to Ben, giving him a practiced smile. Certainly. We have an examination scheduled for tomorrow. Please fill out these forms and provide identification. Ben accepted the tablet she offered, then hesitated. About the identification. I'm not exactly from around here. A foreigner? That's no problem. We accept international documentation. It's more complicated than that, Ben said. I'm from, further away than you might think. Genos stepped forward. I can vouch for his capabilities. He neutralized a Tiger-level threat yesterday using unique abilities. The woman looked uncertain until a voice called from across the lobby. Genos. What brings you here? A man in a sleek business suit approached, flanked by security. His confidence and the deference shown by staff marked him as someone important. Director Sitch, Genos acknowledged with a slight bow. I am sponsoring a potential recruit. Director Sitch examined Ben with interest. Indeed. Recommendations from S-Class heroes are rare. Your name, young man? Ben Tennyson. Ben 10. An unusual name. Sitch smiled thinly. Genos, might I ask why you're personally involved? He possesses transformation capabilities that could be valuable to the association, Genos stated. Master Saitama also approves of his character. At the mention of Saitama, something flashed across Sitch's face, recognition mixed with something like concern. I see. Well, any associate of the hero who defeated the Deep Sea King deserves consideration. Sitch turned to the receptionist. Proceed with his registration under Special Circumstances Protocol. I'll authorize the identity waiver. Yes, Director. Ben gave Genos a questioning look as Sitch walked away. What was that about? Director Sitch is one of the few association officials who recognizes Master Saitama's true capabilities, Genos explained quietly. The mention of his name carries weight with certain individuals. The registration process went smoothly after that. Ben filled out forms describing his quirk as transformation abilities, tactfully avoiding mentions of alien DNA and other dimensions. By early afternoon, he was scheduled for the next day's exam and had been issued temporary housing in the association's applicant dormitory. These are surprisingly comfortable, Ben remarked as they toured the small but well-appointed room he'd been assigned. Way better than your floor, no offense. The association maintains appearances, Genos said. Few applicants pass the examination to become full heroes. About that, what exactly should I expect tomorrow? Physical fitness tests, written examination on hero protocols, and a combat simulation. Genos' eyes narrowed slightly. The written portion may present difficulties given your unfamiliarity with this world. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Ben flopped onto the bed. Any chance you could give me a crash course? Genos considered this. I can provide basic information. However, I must return to Master Saitama soon. For the next hour, Genos outlined the structure of the Hero Association, the monster threat levels, wolf, tiger, demon, dragon, and god, and the basic expectations of heroes at different class levels. Ben took mental notes, occasionally jotting things down on a tablet he'd been provided. So basically, higher-ranked heroes get more perks but have to maintain activity quotas and respond to bigger threats, Ben summarized. Correct. S-Class heroes are dispatched only for demon-level threats or above, except in special circumstances. Ben tapped the Omnitrix thoughtfully. With only a fraction of my aliens available, I should probably aim for B or a class to start. Don't want to oversell and underdeliver. A prudent approach. Geno stood to leave. I will inform Master Saitama of your accommodations. The examination begins at 0800 hours tomorrow. After Genos departed, Ben spent the evening exploring the Omnitrix's current capabilities. The interference from this dimension had limited his available transformations to just 12 aliens: 4 arms, Heat Blast, Diamond Head, XLR-8, Grey Matter, Cannonbolt, Wild Mutt, Swampfire, Echo, Big Chill, Humongosaur, and Water Hazard. Not my full roster, but still plenty to work with, Ben muttered, transforming briefly into each one to ensure they functioned properly. He was testing Swampfire's flame capabilities when an alarm blared throughout the building, followed by an automated announcement: "Attention all heroes and applicants. Demon-level threat detected in City B, available A-class heroes requested to respond." This is not a drill. Ben hesitated only briefly before heading for the window. Well, nothing says job interview like a live demonstration. He transformed into XLR-8, the speedy alien's visor snapping shut over his face. In a blur of blue, he raced down the side of the building and toward City B, following the distant sounds of destruction. The scene he arrived at was chaos. A creature that looked like a grotesque fusion of octopus and gorilla was smashing through buildings, its tentacles whipping cars into the air while roaring from 3 separate mouths. Several heroes were already engaging it. A man in samurai armor was slicing at tentacles, while a woman with gravity-defying hair was evacuating civilians. Neither seemed to be making much headway against the monster. XLR-8 skidded to a halt beside the samurai. "Need a hand?" "Or 8? The samurai hero barely glanced at him. "Unknown hero. This is an A-class response zone. Retreat if you're not qualified." "I'll take that as a yes." Ben tapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, transforming in a flash of green light into 4 arms. Let's see how this thing handles someone who can hit back. Before the samurai could protest further, Ben charged forward, dodging a tentacle that slammed into the ground where he'd stood. He grabbed another tentacle as it whipped toward him, using his 4 arms to gain leverage and yank the monster off balance. "Hey, Squidzilla!" Ben shouted. "Pick on someone with your own arm count." The creature focused all 3 of its mouths on Ben, roaring with enough force to shatter nearby windows. It brought down multiple tentacles in a hammer blow that would have flattened most opponents, but 4 arms caught the attack, muscles straining as he held the monster at bay. "Impressive strength," the samurai hero commented, moving in to slice at the exposed tentacles. "But brute force alone won't." Ben cut him off by suddenly shifting tactics, releasing his hold and rolling sideways. The monster's tentacles smashed into the ground, momentarily stuck. Ben used the opportunity to leap onto its back, climbing toward the central mass where the 3 heads merged. "Sometimes brute force works just fine," Ben called down, "when you apply it to the right spot." He hammered at the junction of the creature's heads with all 4 fists, each blow making the monster shriek in pain. After a particularly powerful punch, something inside the creature cracked audibly. It went into spasms, tentacles flailing wildly. Ben leapt clear as the creature collapsed, its body dissolving into a puddle of foul-smelling goo. The transformation timed out, leaving Ben standing in his human form beside the defeated monster. The samurai approached, sheathing his sword. "Unorthodox but effective. You possess surprising strength for an unranked hero." "Thanks. I'm Ben Tennyson. Actually taking the association exam tomorrow. IAN, A-class rank 2. The samurai inclined his head slightly. "You may find the exam unchallenging." More heroes arrived at the scene, along with news crews and association officials. Ben found himself surrounded by reporters asking about his transformation quirk and whether he planned to join the association. "Just doing what heroes do," Ben answered with a practiced smile. "And yes, I hope to make it official soon." By the time he returned to his temporary quarters, videos of the mysterious four-armed hero were trending on this world's equivalent of social media. Ben collapsed onto his bed, exhausted but satisfied. Maybe being stuck in this dimension wouldn't be so bad after all. The next morning, Ben arrived at the examination hall to find himself already the subject of intense interest. Applicants whispered and pointed as he checked in. "You're the guy from the news," one enthusiastic young man in a tracksuit exclaimed. "The one who can transform. That was awesome how you took down that demon-level threat." "Thanks, but it was a team effort," Ben said modestly, though he couldn't help grinning. The physical exam proved trivially easy for someone who regularly battled intergalactic threats. Ben deliberately held back, using only his human form to complete the strength, agility, and endurance tests. Even so, he scored in the top percentile. The written exam posed more challenges. Questions about Hero Association protocol and the legal framework of Hero operations had Ben struggling to recall everything Genos had told him. He answered as best he could, relying on his years of actual Hero experience to fill in the gaps. Finally came the combat portion. Applicants were paired against training robots of increasing difficulty. Ben watched as other candidates struggled with even the lower-level machines. When his turn came, Ben stepped into the arena confidently. The proctor announced his opponent, a level 8 battle robot, significantly more difficult than what others had faced. "Due to your demonstrated abilities against the demon-level threat yesterday," the proctor explained, "the committee has adjusted your combat test accordingly." The robot that emerged was nearly 10 feet tall, humanoid but bristling with weapons and armor plates. It scanned Ben and assumed a combat stance. "Begin." Ben didn't immediately reach for the Omnitrix. Instead, he circled the robot, assessing its movements. When it launched a barrage of rubber projectiles, he dodged with practiced ease, years of combat experience evident in his movements. Only when the robot charged did Ben activate the Omnitrix, transforming into Diamond Head. His crystalline body absorbed the robot's first punch without damage, then countered by morphing his arm into a blade that sliced through one of the machine's limbs. "Sorry about the damage," Ben called to the proctors. "Hope these things have warranty." The fight ended quickly after that. Diamond Head methodically dismantled the robot, demonstrating not just strength but tactical thinking and precision. When the last piece of machinery clattered to the floor, the examination room fell silent. Ben reverted to human form, brushing crystal dust off his hands. The proctors huddled together, whispering urgently. Finally, the head examiner approached. "Mr. Tennyson, please wait in the reception area. The committee wishes to discuss your results." An hour later, Ben found himself in a conference room facing a panel of serious-looking officials, including Director Sitch. "Mr. Tennyson," Sitch began, "your performance today was exceptional. You scored in the highest percentile for physical abilities, achieved a passing grade on the written examination despite obvious knowledge gaps, and demonstrated combat prowess beyond most A-class heroes." "Thanks," Ben said uncertainly. "So did I pass?" A woman with a severe bun and glasses consulted a tablet. "The question is not whether you passed, but where to place you. Standard protocol would start you at C-class, but your abilities clearly exceed that level." "Indeed," added another official. "The defeat of a demon-level threat, even with assistance, suggests minimum A-class capability." Director Sitch raised a hand to quiet the discussion. "There is precedent for exceptional candidates to begin at higher rankings. However, we must consider the implications." "What implications?" Ben asked. "Advancing too quickly creates resentment among other heroes," Sitch explained. "It can also place undue pressure on the hero in question. We prefer a more measured approach." Ben leaned forward. "With all due respect, I've been in the hero business for 9 years. I've saved my world, my universe, more times than I can count. I'm not looking for fame or rankings, but I won't pretend to be less capable than I am." The room fell silent. Sitch studied Ben for a long moment before nodding. Very well. We will instate you as B-class, rank 5, with expedited review for A-class promotion based on performance. Does that satisfy you? Works for me. Ben extended his hand, which Sitch shook firmly. Welcome to the Hero Association, Ben Tennyson. Your hero name? Ben smiled. Just call me Ben 10. Within days, Ben had established himself as a rising star in the Hero Association. His B-class ranking came with modest but comfortable housing, a stipend, and access to association facilities. More importantly, it gave him official status to investigate potential ways home while helping this world with its monster problems. Saitama seemed amused by the whole situation. B-class already? Took me months to get there. The association seems to respond to flashy powers, Ben replied, relaxing in Saitama's apartment after a joint patrol. And turning into aliens is about as flashy as it gets. Genos, who had initially remained suspicious of Ben, had gradually warmed to him after seeing him in action. Your strategic deployment of different forms shows combat intelligence. Most heroes rely solely on power. Thanks. 9 years of practice helps. Ben fiddled with the Omnitrix, which was still giving him trouble. I just wish I could access all my transformations. There's something about this dimension that's interfering with the quantum matrix. Perhaps Dar Casino could assist, Genos suggested. He is a genius in cybernetics and advanced technology. Worth a shot. I've tried everything I can think of. Their conversation was interrupted by Ben's new hero phone buzzing with an alert. He checked the screen and frowned. Multiple reports of strange energy signatures in City F. Could be nothing, but it could be related to how you got here, Saitama finished, suddenly interested. Want backup? Wouldn't hurt. This might be my ticket home. Ben stood up, activating the Omnitrix. Or it could be trouble. Either way, better to have One Punch Man on standby. And his disciple, Genos added firmly. Ben transformed into XLR-8 for rapid travel, while Genos carried Saitama at high speed using his rocket boosters. They arrived at City F to find a scene straight out of a science fiction movie, a shimmering tear in reality floating above a park, pulsing with purple energy. That's definitely not normal, even for this place, Saitama observed. It's similar to the portal that brought me here, Ben said, reverting to human form. But something's different. It's unstable. As they watched, the portal widened, and a figure stepped through, a man in dark armor with a purple visor covering his face. Ben tensed immediately. Ian. The time-traveling villain surveyed his surroundings before spotting Ben. Tennyson. How predictable that you'd find your way to this backwater dimension. You know this guy? Saitama asked, scratching his head. He's the reason I'm here, Ben said through gritted teeth. He's me from another timeline, an evil version who can manipulate time. Another you? Genos scanned Ian with his sensors. I detect temporal energy emanating from his armor. Ian laughed. Oh, I'm much more than that now, Tennyson. This dimension is merely one of many that will soon fall. The barriers between realities are weakening, and I've found something far more valuable than your pathetic Omnitrix. What are you talking about? Ben demanded. You think you arrived here by accident? Ian spread his arms. This was merely a test run, to see if cross-dimensional transit was possible on a larger scale. And now I know it is. The portal behind Ian pulsed, widening further. Through it, Ben could see shadowy figures moving. You're planning an invasion, he realized. You're bringing something through from another dimension. Not just something, Ian corrected. Someone. A being that will reshape all reality in its image. Your new hero friends won't be able to punch their way out of this one. Saitama stepped forward, his casual demeanor unchanged but something dangerous flickering in his eyes. Wanna bet? Ian regarded Saitama with mild curiosity. The famous One Punch Man. Your reputation precedes you, even across dimensions. But you've never faced anything like what's coming. Heard that before, Saitama yawned. Everyone thinks they're special. Genos moved into a combat stance. Master, shall I eliminate this threat? Wait, Ben cautioned. Ian manipulates time. He could freeze you before you land a hit. As if to demonstrate, Ian raised a hand, purple energy coalescing around his fingers. The air around them seemed to thicken as time itself slowed to a crawl, except for Ben, protected by the Omnitrix, and surprisingly, Saitama, who merely looked annoyed. Your time powers are even more boring than that Esper guy, Saitama commented, walking normally through the time-slowed environment. Ian's eyes widened behind his visor. Impossible. No one resists temporal manipulation. Ben used the distraction to transform into heat blast, flames erupting around his body. Surprise, Ian. You're not the only one full of surprises. He launched a fireball that caught Ian squarely in the chest, sending him staggering backward toward the portal. The time effect dissipated, freeing Genos to join the attack with a blast from his incineration cannons. Ian barely erected a shield in time, the combined attacks pushing him to the edge of the portal. This changes nothing, Tennyson. The breaches will continue. Nexus is coming. With a final surge of purple energy, Ian leapt backward into the portal, which collapsed with a thunderous implosion. The shockwave knocked Ben off his feet, reverting him to human form. Who's Nexus? Saitama asked, completely unfazed by the explosion. No idea, Ben admitted, picking himself up. But whatever it is, it can't be good. Genos was scanning the area where the portal had been. Residual energy signatures indicate quantum instability. If what he said is true about more breaches, then we've got bigger problems than just me finding a way home, Ben finished. Looks like I might be sticking around a bit longer than planned. As they headed back to City Z, Ben couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Ian had never been interested in conquering dimensions before, his obsession had always been the Omnitrix. Whatever this Nexus was, it had to be powerful enough to shift Ian's priorities completely. Back at Saitama's apartment, Ben reported the encounter to the Hero Association while Saitama made tea with his usual nonchalance. So another dimension is maybe invading, Saitama summarized, setting cups on the table. That's new, I guess. Master, this could represent an unprecedented threat level, Genos pointed out. Potentially God level if dimensional barriers collapse. Yeah. Saitama waved a hand dismissively. We'll handle it when it happens. Ben couldn't help but smile at Saitama's attitude. The man's incredible power had clearly led to a unique outlook on threats, nothing seemed to worry him. It was both reassuring and slightly concerning. For now, I should focus on tracking any more dimensional anomalies, Ben said, sipping his tea. The Omnitrix might be able to detect them if I recalibrate it. The association will want to be involved, Genos noted. Interdimensional threats fall under S-class jurisdiction. Fine by me. I could use the resources. Ben glanced at his temporary Hero Association ID. Though it'd help if I had higher clearance. As if on cue, his hero phone buzzed with a message. Ben checked it and let out a low whistle. Speak of the devil. The executive committee is fast-tracking my promotion to A-class based on the Ian encounter. Effective immediately. That was quick, Saitama remarked. Took me forever just to move up in B-class. The association prioritizes unique abilities with strategic value, Genos explained. Ben's knowledge of interdimensional threats represents a critical asset. Ben set down his phone, expression serious despite the promotion. Doesn't matter what class I am if Ian succeeds in whatever he's planning. He mentioned something called Nexus, I need to figure out what that is. We'll help, Saitama said simply. That's what heroes do, right? Looking at the bald man in his ridiculous costume, Ben felt a surge of gratitude. He'd landed in a strange world with different rules, but some things remained constant across all dimensions. Heroes stood together against threats, no matter how bizarre. Right, Ben agreed with a smile. That's exactly what heroes do. Outside, unnoticed by the three heroes, a tiny purple spark flickered in the air. For just a moment, reality seemed to bend around it before stabilizing again. The first of many breaches to come had begun to form, as something vast and ancient turned its attention toward a new dimension ripe for conquest. Chapter 2, Heroes United, Worlds Divided. Ben tapped his foot impatiently outside the Hero Association's executive boardroom. 3 weeks had passed since his promotion to A-class, and he'd already climbed to rank 17 through a combination of monster takedowns and investigating the growing number of dimensional anomalies popping up across the cities. This better be quick, he muttered to himself, checking the Omnitrix. The device had been acting increasingly erratic, sometimes glitching between transformations without warning. Got 3 reported anomalies to check today. The massive oak doors finally swung open, and a secretary gestured him inside. The committee will see you now, A-class hero Ben 10. Ben stepped into a room that screamed corporate excess, a massive oval table surrounded by stern-faced executives in expensive suits. Director Sitch sat at the head, flanked by people Ben had learned were major association donors and stakeholders. Ah, Ben 10. Thank you for coming on such short notice, Sitch said, gesturing to an empty chair. Please, have a seat. Ben remained standing. With respect, Director, I've got anomalies to investigate. What's this about? A woman with sharp features and silver hair leaned forward. Such impertinence. This is precisely the attitude we need to discuss. Straight to the point then, Sitch sighed. The committee has concerns about your recent activities, specifically your independent investigation into these dimensional disturbances. Independent? Ben raised an eyebrow. I've filed reports after every investigation. Followed all protocols. Yes, but you've been conducting these investigations primarily with B-class hero Saitama and S-class hero Genos, outside the standard team assignments, another executive noted, sliding a tablet across the table. Our data analytics show an 83% correlation between these anomalies and subsequent monster appearances. Ben frowned, picking up the tablet. The data was actually impressive. Someone had mapped every anomaly he detected against monster sightings. They were definitely connected. That's why I've been investigating them, Ben explained. These aren't your garden-variety monsters. They're coming through from other dimensions, just like I did. So you claim, the silver-haired woman said coolly. Yet we only have your word that these phenomena are dimensional portals rather than some new form of monster genesis. Ben fought to keep his temper in check. Look, I've been dealing with aliens, interdimensional travel, and weird tech since I was 10. Trust me when I say, that's precisely the issue, Sitch interrupted. Trust. While your combat prowess is undeniable, your background remains unverifiable. The penny dropped. You think I'm causing these anomalies? That I'm what, some advanced scout for an invasion? The uncomfortable silence that followed told Ben everything. Unbelievable. He tossed the tablet back onto the table. I've spent 3 weeks fighting monsters that would have flattened entire city blocks, and you're treating me like I'm the problem. We're simply exercising due diligence, Sitch said calmly. The association has established a special task force to investigate these anomalies, led by S-class hero Metal Knight. We'd like you to coordinate with him going forward. Metal Knight? The guy who sends robots to do his fighting and never shows his face. Ben had heard plenty about the mysterious S-class hero from both Saitama and Genos. None of it good. He just wants to study the Omnitrix. His technological expertise makes him uniquely qualified, one of the executives insisted. Ben's hero phone buzzed. He checked it to find an alert, another anomaly, this one in City C's financial district. Bigger than any they'd seen so far. We're not done here, Ben 10, Sitch warned as Ben turned to leave. Yeah, we are. Ben paused at the door. You want to waste time playing politics while something tears holes between dimensions? Fine. But I'm going to keep doing my job, stopping whatever's coming through those holes before people get hurt. He slammed the door behind him, already dialing Genos as he strode down the hallway. The cyborg answered immediately. Genos, we've got another breach. City C, Financial District. Biggest one yet. Understood. I will inform Master Saitama and meet you there. Thanks. Ben ended the call, ducking into an empty stairwell. He activated the Omnitrix, scrolling through his available aliens. Need something fast. XLR-8 should do it. The transformation washed over him in a flash of green light. Within seconds, the velociraptor-like alien was racing down the stairs and out of the building, a blur of blue and black streaking toward City C. He arrived at the financial district in minutes, skidding to a halt before a sight that made his blood run cold. This wasn't just another small tear in reality, this was a full-blown rift, at least 30 feet across, swirling with purple and black energy that distorted everything around it. Office workers stood frozen in the streets, staring up at the phenomenon in horror. Everyone back. XLR-8 shouted, zipping between civilians and creating a perimeter. Clear the area now. As people began to retreat, the rift pulsed violently. Something was coming through, something big. XLR-8 tapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Need something with more punch for this one. In a flash of green, he transformed into Humongosaur, his massive dinosaur-like form growing to nearly 20 feet tall. That's more like it. The rift bulged outward as a massive clawed hand emerged, followed by a hideous head that resembled a cross between a wolf and an insect, with multiple glowing eyes and mandibles that clicked hungrily. Ugly one, aren't you? Ben called out, cracking his knuckles. Let me guess, you're not here for the local cuisine. The creature fully emerged, a 12-foot monstrosity with 6 limbs and a segmented body covered in chitinous armor. It surveyed the scene before fixing its compound eyes on Ben. To his surprise, it spoke in a guttural but intelligible voice. Omnitrix detected. Primary objective, acquire. Ben's eyes widened. You're after the Omnitrix. Get in line, buddy. There's a whole universe of creeps who tried that before you. The creature charged with shocking speed, forcing Ben to brace for impact. They collided with enough force to shatter the pavement beneath them. Despite Humongosaur's superior size, the monster matched his strength, its claws digging into his leathery skin. Okay, stronger than you look, Ben grunted, delivering a massive uppercut that sent the creature flying into an empty bus. The monster recovered instantly, shaking off the blow like it was nothing. Worse, before Ben's eyes, its body began to change, the chitinous armor thickening, becoming more like Humongosaur's own hide. It's adapting, Ben realized aloud. Copying my form's strengths. The creature charged again, this time meeting Ben's punch with one of its own. The shockwave shattered windows in nearby buildings. Time for a different approach. Ben slapped the Omnitrix symbol again, transforming into Big Chill. His moth-like form turned intangible just as the monster tried to grab him. Can't touch what you can't hit, Ben taunted, exhaling a blast of freezing breath that encased the creature's limbs in ice. For a moment, it seemed to work, the monster struggled against its frozen restraints. Then its body began to change again, developing a blue tinge as frost formed on its exoskeleton. The ice around it melted as it generated its own cold aura. You've got to be kidding me. Ben barely dodged as the creature expelled a blast of freezing energy, nearly identical to his own. A familiar voice called from behind him. Need a hand? Genos landed nearby, his mechanical arms transforming into incineration cannons. Saitama jogged up beside him, looking more curious than concerned. This thing adapts to whatever hits it, Ben explained, reverting to his human form as the Omnitrix started beeping in warning. It's specifically targeting the Omnitrix. Fascinating, Genos analyzed the creature with his sensors. Its cellular structure is reconfiguring in real time. Yeah, fascinating, Saitama deadpanned. So I punch it, right? Wait. Ben held up a hand. If it adapts to your strength, too late. Saitama had already closed the distance with casual speed, delivering what he clearly intended as a moderate punch to the creature's head. The impact should have obliterated it. Instead, there was a dull thud as the monster skidded backward, visibly damaged but very much intact. Huh, Saitama looked genuinely surprised. That usually works. Before their eyes, the creature's body rippled and changed, its muscles densifying and skin hardening to a metallic sheen. It straightened up, mandibles clicking in what almost sounded like satisfaction. Strength assimilation complete. Omnitrix acquisition proceeding. That's not good, Ben muttered, frantically working the Omnitrix dial. Come on, reset already. The monster charged Saitama again, its enhanced fist connecting with the hero's face. To everyone's shock, especially Saitama's, the blow actually moved him back a few inches. Master. Genos fired a massive blast from his cannons, engulfing the creature in flame. When the smoke cleared, the monster stood unharmed, its body now glowing with heat. It turned toward Genos and expelled a concentrated energy beam from its mouth, mimicking the cyborg's attack with even greater intensity. Genos barely managed to dodge, the beam slicing through 3 buildings behind him. It copied my incineration cannon. It's adapting to everything we throw at it, Ben called out as the Omnitrix finally turned green again. We need to coordinate. Hit it with something it can't adapt to all at once. Saitama rubbed his cheek thoughtfully. That actually stung a little. Interesting. The creature turned its attention back to Ben, clearly prioritizing the Omnitrix over all else. It charged with terrifying speed, now moving as fast as XLR-8 while maintaining the strength it had copied from Saitama. Ben activated the Omnitrix just in time, transforming into Diamond Head. The crystalline alien met the charge head-on, morphing his arms into blades that sparked against the creature's now metallic hide. Genos. Target its legs. Ben shouted, forcing the monster back with a barrage of crystal shards. The cyborg understood immediately, diving low to fire precision blasts at the creature's joints while it was focused on Ben. Simultaneously, Ben formed a crystal cage around its upper body, temporarily restraining it. Saitama. Now. Ben called. The bald hero appeared above the creature, his expression serious for once. Consecutive normal punches. His fists blurred as he delivered a rapid series of blows, each one precisely targeting points that Genos and Ben had exposed. The monster shrieked, its adaptive abilities overwhelmed by the 3-pronged attack. Its body tried to simultaneously harden against Saitama's punches, become crystalline in response to Diamond Head, and generate energy to counter Genos. The contradictory adaptations proved too much. With a final howl, the creature's body destabilized, collapsing into a puddle of writhing protoplasm that slowly dissolved into the pavement. Ben reverted to human form, breathing heavily. That was close. It specifically targeted the Omnitrix, Genos noted, scanning the remains. And appeared immediately after the dimensional rift opened. Yeah, not a coincidence. Ben approached the rift, which was still swirling ominously. Something sent it. Something that knows about the Omnitrix. Saitama joined them, looking slightly disappointed. So it could adapt to my punch. That's new. Still died though. Only because we worked together, Ben pointed out. If it had time to fully integrate your strength with its other adaptations. The rift pulsed suddenly, expanding outward. Ben stumbled back as a voice emerged from within, not a sound, but words directly in his mind, echoing painfully. Benjamin Tennyson. Wielder of the Omnitrix. Ben clutched his head, wincing. Who's there? Show yourself. I am Nexus. The void between dimensions. The hunger that consumes realities. Genos and Saitama tensed, clearly hearing the voice as well. The cyborg scanners went haywire, while Saitama merely frowned in annoyance. "Another guy who talks big," the bald hero muttered. The voice continued, unperturbed. "Your arrival in this dimension was no accident, Benjamin Tennyson. The barriers weaken. The convergence approaches." "What convergence?" Ben demanded, fighting through the mental pain. "What do you want?" "The Omnitrix. The key to all DNA. With it, I shall assimilate all life across all dimensions." The rift flashed blindingly, and an image appeared within, a massive, shifting form composed of swirling energy and fragments of countless creatures. At its center pulsed a dark void that seemed to devour light itself. The adaptive one was merely a test. A fragment of my essence. Soon I shall breach this reality completely. "Not happening," Ben declared, activating the Omnitrix again. "I've stopped planet-eating monsters before. You're just another cosmic bully." Brave words from a being so small. "Your Omnitrix is already responding to my call. Look." Ben glanced down in alarm to see the Omnitrix glowing with purple energy, its display flickering between alien forms without his input. Pain shot up his arm as the device seemed to fight against some external influence. "What are you doing to it?" he gasped. "Claiming what will be mine. All DNA. All life. All dimensions." Saitama stepped forward, his casual demeanor replaced by quiet intensity. "Hey. That's my friend you're messing with. Back off. A being of limitless strength. Yes, I sense it within you. You too shall be assimilated." "Heard that before," Saitama replied flatly. "Gets old." The rift pulsed violently, expanding further. Buildings around them began to distort as reality itself bent around the tear. Ben fell to one knee as the Omnitrix sparked and hissed on his wrist. "Master, we must retreat," Genos urged, supporting Ben. "The dimensional instability is increasing exponentially." "Not yet," Ben growled through gritted teeth. He focused on the Omnitrix, fighting against Nexus's influence. "I've still got one trick up my sleeve." With a supreme effort of will, Ben managed to twist the Omnitrix dial, overriding the external control. He slammed it down, triggering a transformation unlike any he'd used before in this dimension. Green energy mixed with purple as Ben's form shifted and changed. When it cleared, he stood taller, his body radiating power. His skin was metallic green with black circuit-like patterns, and the Omnitrix symbol glowed at the center of his chest. "Upgrade," Ben announced, his voice overlaid with electronic tones. "Let's see how you handle a galvanic mechamorph." Before Genos or Saitama could react, Ben thrust his hands into the rift. His liquid metal form flowed into the dimensional tear, interfacing directly with its energy matrix. "What is he doing?" Genos demanded, scanners struggling to analyze the transformation. "What is this?" Nexus's mental voice boomed, now tinged with surprise. "You cannot interface with dimensional energy. You are merely organic." "Wrong," Ben replied, his consciousness extending through the rift. "Upgrade can interface with any technology. And these rifts? They're technological in origin. Someone built them, probably Ian, working for you." Inside the rift, Ben could sense the truth. The tears weren't natural phenomena but artificially generated breaches, created by technology far beyond Earth's understanding. As upgrade, he could connect with that technology, temporarily disrupting its function. Clever, but futile. You merely delay the inevitable. Maybe, Ben conceded, feeling his control slipping. But delay is all I need right now. With a final surge of effort, Ben rewrote the rift's energy pattern, forcing it to collapse in on itself. The tear imploded with a thunderous crack, sending a shockwave that knocked Genos off his feet. Only Saitama remained standing, watching with genuine interest. Ben reverted to human form, collapsing to the ground. The Omnitrix on his wrist sparked and smoked, its display dark. Ben. Genos helped him up. Are you functional? Been better, Ben groaned, staring at the dead Omnitrix. But I bought us some time. Forced the rift closed and damaged whatever was generating it. Saitama crouched beside them. Your watch thing looks broken. Nexus was trying to hack it somehow. I had to use upgrade to counter, but the strain was too much. Ben tapped the darkened faceplate. It's in recharge mode. Could take hours, maybe days to reset. You mentioned technology, Genos said. These rifts are artificial. Ben nodded. Someone built devices to tear holes between dimensions. Probably Ian, working for this Nexus entity. But why? What does it gain by invading our dimension specifically? It said something about the Omnitrix being a key, Saitama recalled. Maybe your watch thingy is special. It always has been, Ben sighed. But this is different. Nexus didn't just want to steal it, it was trying to interface with it, use it somehow. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Hero Association forces, a squad of armored trucks and helicopters surrounding the area. Leading them was a floating robot with multiple arms and weapon systems, one of Metal Knight's drones. Great, Ben muttered. The cavalry arrives after the battle's over. The robot hovered directly in front of them. A-Class Hero Ben 10, S-Class Hero Genos, B-Class Hero Saitama. You have engaged an unclassified threat without proper authorization. There wasn't time, Genos began. Furthermore, the robot continued, you appear to have utilized unknown technology to interact with the anomaly, potentially exacerbating the situation. Ben stood up straight, despite his exhaustion. Listen, Metal Knight, or whatever your real name is. That anomaly was a dimensional rift created by something called Nexus. It sent a monster specifically to capture the Omnitrix. I used my abilities to close the rift before something worse came through. The robot's sensors focused on the darkened Omnitrix. Your device appears damaged. I must insist you accompany me to my research facility for debriefing and examination of the technology. Not happening. Ben stepped back. The Omnitrix stays with me. This is not a request. Metal Knight's drone deployed weapon systems. The potential threat to this world requires all relevant technology be studied. Saitama casually stepped between them. Hey, robot guy. My friend said no. How about you back off before I turn you into a toaster? The drone hesitated, its weapons still trained on them but not firing. After a moment, it retracted its arms. Very well. But the Association Executive Committee requires your immediate presence for debriefing. All three of you. Ben glanced at his dead Omnitrix, then at the destruction around them. Without his transformations, he was vulnerable, and Nexus was still out there, planning its next move. Fine, he conceded. But I'll explain to the committee directly. No private debriefings with Metal Knight. Acceptable, the drone confirmed. Transport will be provided. As they boarded the Association helicopter, Ben couldn't shake a feeling of dread. Whatever Nexus was, it had recognized the Omnitrix immediately, not just as a transformation device, but as something more significant. A key of some kind. You look worried, Saitama commented as they flew toward Association headquarters. Just thinking, Ben replied. Every villain I've faced who wanted the Omnitrix had a specific reason. Power, revenge, conquest. But Nexus called it a key to all DNA. That suggests something bigger. Perhaps it seeks to assimilate the genetic coding of all lifeforms, Genos suggested. The Omnitrix contains thousands of genetic samples, correct? Yeah, DNA from across my universe. Ben looked out at the city below. But why cross dimensions for it? There must be plenty of genetic variety in its own reality. Unless it's already consumed everything there, Saitama said quietly. Ben and Geno stared at him. What? Saitama shrugged. Just a thought. It was a chilling possibility, and one that made disturbing sense. If Nexus had already assimilated all life in its dimension, it would need to breach others to continue feeding. And the Omnitrix, with its vast catalog of alien DNA, would be the perfect shortcut. The Hero Association headquarters was in chaos when they arrived. Multiple screens in the command center showed reports of smaller rifts opening across various cities, though none as large as the one they just encountered. Teams of heroes were being dispatched to investigate, but the association was clearly overwhelmed. Director Sitch met them in a private conference room, his normally composed demeanor showing cracks of stress. This is unprecedented, he began without preamble. 17 anomalies reported in the last hour alone. The public is panicking. It's going to get worse, Ben warned. The entity behind this, Nexus, is just getting started. So you encountered it directly? Sitch's gaze intensified. Tell me everything. Ben recounted their battle with the adaptive creature and subsequent conversation with Nexus, omitting only the details about the Omnitrix being a specific target. He didn't entirely trust the association, especially with Metal Knight's obvious interest in his technology. It called itself the Void Between Dimensions, Ben concluded. Some kind of entity that consumes realities. And it's found a way to create artificial breaches between its dimension and ours. Sitch listened intently, then turned to Genos. Your assessment. Ben's account is accurate, the cyborg confirmed. The entity demonstrated considerable power and knowledge. I believe it constitutes a god-level threat by association standards. I concur. Sitch pulled up a holographic display of the world map, showing the locations of all reported rifts. Notice the pattern. They're forming a grid. Whatever this Nexus is planning, it's methodical. Ben studied the map, recognizing the configuration. It's creating a dimensional mesh network. Each breach strengthens the others, making larger tiers possible. How do you know this? Sitch demanded. I've seen similar tactics before, Ben replied, thinking of various dimensional invaders he'd faced. It's building up to something big, a full convergence of dimensions. Which would result in total reality collapse, Ben said grimly. Both dimensions destroyed in the process of merging. Sitch paled visibly. Then we must close these breaches immediately. How did you seal the one in City C? Ben hesitated, glancing at his inactive Omnitrix. I used one of my transformations to interface with the technology generating the rift. But it's not a permanent solution, and the Omnitrix is currently recharging. Convenient, a new voice commented. They turned to see a tall, thin man in a lab coat entering the room. His face was partially obscured by a surgical mask, and electronic goggles covered his eyes. Despite never having met him in person, Ben recognized him immediately from descriptions. Metal Knight. Or do you prefer Dr. Beaufoy when you're not hiding behind robots? The scientist ignored the jab. Your mysterious device suffers a malfunction at precisely the moment we need to study it. How unfortunate. It's not a malfunction. It's recharging, Ben corrected. And even if it was working, I wouldn't let you anywhere near it. The fate of our world may depend on understanding this technology, Metal Knight countered. Your possessiveness seems childish in context. Enough, Sitch interrupted. Dr. Beaufoy, what progress on your analysis of the anomalies? Metal Knight produced a tablet displaying complex equations and energy readings. The dimensional tiers emit a unique quantum signature consistent with artificial generation. My drones have detected similar energy at 17 locations globally, including residual traces at the site of Ben Tennyson's arrival 3 weeks ago. Ben frowned. You've been tracking me. Monitoring potential threats is my responsibility, the scientist replied coolly. Your sudden appearance, coinciding with the beginning of these anomalies, raises obvious questions. I told you, I was chasing Ian when, yes, your unverifiable story about interdimensional criminals, Metal Knight cut him off. Quite convenient. Saitama, who had been quietly observing the exchange, suddenly stood. This is boring. The bad guy is Nexus, not Ben. Stop wasting time arguing. The room fell silent at the blunt assessment. Sitch cleared his throat. Saitama is right, in his way. Our priority must be closing these breaches and preventing new ones from forming. I have developed prototype dimensional stabilizers, Metal Knight offered. They can temporarily suppress the quantum fluctuations around smaller rifts. But larger tiers, like the one in City C, require more direct intervention. Like what I did, Ben pointed out. The rifts are technology-based. If we can disrupt their generation, we would need to locate the source, Genos concluded. The devices creating these breaches. Precisely, Metal Knight agreed reluctantly. My analysis suggests multiple generator points, likely hidden near areas of significant electromagnetic interference to mask their signatures. Ben's eyes widened as realization struck. Power plants. Ian would place the generators near major power sources to fuel them. There are 7 nuclear power facilities within our national borders, Sitch noted, highlighting them on the map. If each houses a generator, then we split up and hit them all simultaneously, Ben finished. Cut off Nexus's access before it can fully breach our dimension. A logical approach, Metal Knight conceded. However, you appear to be without your transformation capabilities at present. Your utility seems limited. Ben glared at the scientist. The Omnitrix will recharge. And even without it, I know more about interdimensional technology than anyone here. I'll go with him, Saitama volunteered, surprising everyone. The watch thing helped last time. It'll help again. As will I, Genos added firmly. Our combined capabilities proved effective against Nexus's emissary. Sitch considered this, then nodded. Very well. Ben 10, Saitama, and Genos will investigate the primary power plant in City J, Metal Knight, deploy your drones to the remaining facilities. I'll mobilize S-class heroes to accompany them. As the meeting adjourned, Ben felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had a plan, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Nexus was already several steps ahead. Without a fully functional Omnitrix, he was at a significant disadvantage. Your device, Genos said quietly as they left the conference room. How long until it recharges completely? Ben checked the Omnitrix, which showed faint signs of life, a dim pulse of green light every few seconds. Hard to say. The power drain was severe. Could be hours, could be days. Perhaps Dr. Casino could assist, Genos suggested. His laboratory is on our way to City J. Worth a try, Ben agreed. Though I doubt even he could fully understand Galvan technology. Saitama yawned as he joined them. So, road trip to stop the end of the world. Should I pack snacks? Despite everything, Ben laughed. There was something refreshing about Saitama's straightforward approach to even the most apocalyptic threats. In the 3 weeks he'd known the bald hero, Ben had come to appreciate his uncomplicated view of heroism, helping people because they needed help, not for fame or recognition. Yeah, snacks would be good, Ben agreed. We might be in for a long day. They left the association headquarters amid a flurry of activity, heroes being dispatched, emergency protocols activated, and Metal Knight's drones deploying in formation. No one paid much attention to the odd trio, a bald man in a ridiculous costume, a teenage-looking cyborg, and a young man with a strange watch, who might well be the world's best hope against dimensional collapse. Dr. Casino's laboratory was hidden beneath an unassuming house in the suburbs between City Z and City J. Genos led them through an elaborate security system to a high-tech facility that reminded Ben of plumber bases back in his dimension. Genos. An elderly man with wild white hair and a bushy mustache greeted them warmly. An unexpected visit. And you've brought friends? Dr. Casino, this is Master Saitama and Ben Tennyson. We face a serious threat and require your expertise. The scientist adjusted his glasses, peering at Ben curiously. Ah, the dimension traveler I've heard so much about. Genos has mentioned your fascinating device. That's why we're here, Ben explained, showing the scientist the dimly pulsing Omnitrix. It was damaged while closing a dimensional rift. I need it operational as soon as possible. Dr. Casino examined the device without touching it, his expression growing more intrigued by the second. Extraordinary. The quantum entanglement matrix is unlike anything I've ever seen. And you say it allows genetic transformation? Into different alien species, yeah. But right now it's stuck in recharge mode after being partially hacked by an interdimensional entity. Fascinating. The elderly scientist practically bounced with excitement. I may be able to accelerate its recharge cycle, though I wouldn't dare attempt repairs on such advanced technology. Recharging it faster would be enough, Ben assured him. For the next hour, Dr. Casino worked with various devices, carefully measuring the Omnitrix's energy output and gently supplying it with precisely calibrated power sources. Ben watched anxiously as the green pulsing gradually strengthened. It's responding well, Casino noted. The internal systems appear to be self-repairing. Quite remarkable engineering. Azimuth would be flattered, Ben commented. He always said it was his greatest creation. This Azimuth must be a genius beyond comprehension. Yeah, and he never lets anyone forget it, Ben smiled at the memory of the cantankerous Galvan inventor. While the doctor worked, Genos received reports from the Association about the growing crisis. More rifts were opening, and strange creatures had begun emerging from some of them, nothing as powerful as the adaptive monster they'd faced, but enough to keep heroes busy across multiple cities. Their distractions, Ben realized. Nexus is diverting our attention while the real breaches grow stronger. The pattern is expanding, Genos confirmed, displaying a holographic map. The energy readings at the power plants are increasing exponentially. Saitama, who had been amusing himself by spinning in a desk chair, finally spoke up. So we go smash the machines making the holes, right? Seems simple. If only it were that easy, Dr. Casino sighed. Interdimensional technology is delicate. Improper deactivation could potentially worsen the breaches. He's right, Ben agreed. We need to shut them down correctly, not just destroy them. The Omnitrix suddenly flared brighter, its display lighting up fully. Ben felt the familiar connection re-establish as the device completed its accelerated recharge. Perfect timing. He jumped to his feet. Dr. Casino, thank you. You've probably saved the world today. The scientist beamed. Always happy to assist. Though I must say, the energy signature your device emits is remarkably similar to the dimensional anomalies themselves. Curious coincidence. Ben and Genos exchanged concerned glances. Not a coincidence at all, Nexus had specifically targeted the Omnitrix, calling it a key. The connection was becoming clearer, but they had no time to investigate further. We need to move, Ben urged. City J's power plant is our target. They departed quickly, with Genos carrying Saitama at high speed while Ben transformed into XLR-8 to keep pace. As they traveled, Ben couldn't help worrying about what they might find. If the dimensional generators were as advanced as he suspected, shutting them down wouldn't be straightforward. City J's nuclear power facility was a massive complex of cooling towers and reactor buildings, surrounded by multiple security perimeters. Under normal circumstances, infiltrating such a location would be nearly impossible, but these weren't normal circumstances. The Hero Association had cleared their access, and the plant had already been evacuated due to unexplained energy fluctuations. No guards, Ben noted as they approached the main gate. That's suspicious. Association protocol would maintain security personnel, Genos agreed, scanning the area. Something is wrong. They entered cautiously, Ben switching from XLR-8 to Diamond Head for better defense. The facility was eerily silent, emergency lights casting long shadows across empty corridors. "I'm detecting an energy signature from the primary reactor building," Genos reported. "Consistent with the dimensional rifts, but much stronger." "Let's check it out," Saitama said, already walking ahead. "This place gives me the creeps." They made their way through the complex, finding more evidence of hasty evacuation, abandoned workstations, half-finished meals, personal items left behind. But no bodies, no signs of struggle. "Where is everyone?" Ben wondered aloud. Even if they evacuated, there should be association personnel here. "Perhaps they were taken," Genos suggested grimly. The reactor building's massive blast doors stood partially open, dim purple light spilling out. As they approached, Ben felt the Omnitrix react, warming against his wrist. "It's responding to whatever's in there," he whispered. "Just like before." Saitama cracked his knuckles. Only one way to find out what's waiting. They entered the cavernous reactor chamber to find it transformed. The nuclear reactor itself was surrounded by an elaborate apparatus of twisted metal and pulsing energy conduits, all feeding into a swirling vortex that hovered above the cooling pool. The purple-black energy distorted the air around it, creating a sense of wrongness that made Ben's skin crawl. But more disturbing was what, or rather who, stood before the vortex. "Welcome, heroes," Ian greeted them, arms spread wide. "You're right on schedule." The time-traveling villain wasn't alone. Beside him stood a figure Ben recognized with shock, a perfect duplicate of himself, but with glowing purple eyes and veins that pulsed with the same energy as the rift. "What the hell?" Ben took a step back. "That's you," Ian finished with a smirk. "Or rather, a version of you I've recruited from another timeline. One who understands the true potential of the Omnitrix." The duplicate Ben smiled coldly. "Hello, me. Nice watch. I'll be taking it soon." Saitama looked between the two Bens, then shrugged. "So there's two of you now. Still doesn't explain what you're doing with this purple swirly thing." "Creating the path for Nexus, of course," Ian explained as if it were obvious. "The convergence requires anchor points in both dimensions. 7 points of perfect quantum alignment. You're helping an entity that wants to consume entire dimensions," Ben said incredulously. "Even for you, that's insane. You'll be destroyed along with everything else." Ian laughed. "Such limited thinking. Nexus doesn't destroy, it assimilates. Transforms. Those worthy become part of something greater. Like me," the duplicate Ben added, raising his wrist to reveal a twisted, purple-veined version of the Omnitrix. "I've tasted what Nexus offers. Power beyond anything you could imagine." Genos stepped forward, arms transforming into cannons. "You have been corrupted. This entity has manipulated you both. Or perhaps we simply understand the inevitable," Ian countered. "Dimensional barriers are weakening across the multiverse. Nexus is merely hastening what would happen naturally." As they spoke, Ben noticed the apparatus pulsing more intensely, the vortex growing larger. They were stalling. "Enough talk," Ben declared, the Omnitrix glowing green as he selected an alien form. "We're shutting this down." "I'd like to see you try," the duplicate Ben challenged, his corrupted Omnitrix glowing purple. "Let's see how you handle a transformation you've never seen before." Both Bens slammed down their devices simultaneously. Ben transformed into swampfire, plant matter and methane composing his regenerative body. His duplicate, however, transformed into something altogether different, a writhing mass of purple energy barely contained within a humanoid form, crackling with power that distorted reality around it. "Meet Next form," the duplicate hissed through a mouth of pure energy. "A little gift from my new master." "That's not a stable transformation," Ben warned, genuinely concerned despite the circumstances. "The Omnitrix isn't designed to handle pure energy beings without proper containment." "Your Omnitrix isn't," Next form corrected. "Mine has been upgraded." Without warning, the energy being launched forward, moving so fast even Genos couldn't track it. It slammed into Ben with devastating force, sending him crashing into the reactor wall. "Ben!" Saitama called out, turning to engage. "Focus on the machine." Ben shouted back, hurling fireballs at his corrupted counterpart. "Genos, help me with this thing." "Saitama, take care of Ian and shut down that vortex." Saitama nodded, instantly disappearing from view with his incredible speed. He reappeared next to Ian, who barely had time to activate a temporal shield before Saitama's casual punch connected with it. "Interesting," Saitama commented as the shield actually withstood his blow. "That usually breaks things. Temporal energy is the one force even you can't overcome with brute strength, one-punch man," Ian sneered. "Your power exists in the present moment, I control time itself." Meanwhile, Genos joined Ben in battling Nex form, whose energy attacks phased through Swampfire's plant matter while disrupting his regenerative abilities. This isn't working, Ben realized, switching tactics. He slapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, transforming into Big Chill. "Let's see how energy handles absolute zero." He exhaled a freezing blast that momentarily slowed Nex form, crystallizing the energy being's outer shell. Genos followed up with a precision blast that shattered the frozen exterior, exposing the unstable core. "Your body's breaking down," Ben called to his duplicate. "That transformation is killing you." The Omnitrix is supposed to protect its user. "Weakness talking," Nex form snarled, though Ben noticed flickers of concern in its voice. The energy form was indeed destabilizing, parts of it dissolving into the air. Nexus rewards sacrifice. Across the chamber, Saitama was systematically destroying the apparatus surrounding the vortex while dodging Ian's increasingly desperate time blasts. Though the temporal villain could slow or even freeze moments, he couldn't affect Saitama directly. Something about the hero's power made him partially immune to temporal manipulation. "Stand still, you bald freak!" Ian shouted in frustration. "Nah," Saitama replied casually, smashing another component. "Your purple stuff makes my head hurt." The vortex began fluctuating wildly as its support structure failed. Energy arced between the remaining components, striking walls and equipment at random. One blast hit the cooling pool, instantly vaporizing thousands of gallons of water. "You fools!" Ian cried. "Uncontrolled shutdown will cause a dimensional cascade. You'll tear reality apart." "Better than letting Nexus through," Ben replied, shifting from Big Chill to Diamond Head as Nex form launched another attack. The corrupted Ben was visibly deteriorating now, his energy form flickering and sputtering like a dying flame. Yet he fought with increasing desperation, as if trying to prove his worth to his new master. "Why won't you just die?" Nex form screamed, channeling all his remaining power into a single devastating blast aimed at Ben's Omnitrix. Ben raised a crystal shield, but the energy tore through it, striking the Omnitrix dead center. Instead of damaging it, however, the blast seemed to be absorbed into the device, which began pulsing with alternating green and purple light. "What's happening?" Genos demanded, scanners going haywire. "The Omnitrixes are synchronizing," Ben realized in horror. "That's what they wanted all along. They're creating a link between dimensions." The vortex suddenly expanded dramatically, the swirling energy forming a clear tunnel between realities. At its far end, a massive shape began to coalesce, a writhing amalgamation of countless lifeforms fused together around a void-like core. "Nexus comes," boomed the mental voice they'd heard before. "The key has been activated. The convergence begins." "No." Ben fought against the pull of his Omnitrix toward the vortex. "Saitama. Destroy the rest of it. Now." The bald hero needed no further encouragement. With a serious expression rarely seen on his face, Saitama drew back his fist. Serious punch. The impact was unlike anything Ben had ever witnessed. The air itself seemed to part before Saitama's fist as it connected with the main power conduit feeding the vortex. The shockwave rippled outward, shattering every remaining piece of equipment and sending Ian flying into a wall where he crumpled, unconscious. For a moment, it seemed to work. The vortex began to contract, the image of Nexus receding. Then, abruptly, it expanded again, growing even larger. It's self-sustaining now, Ben realized. We're too late. Nexform laughed triumphantly, though his body was barely holding together. Yes. Nexus comes. All will be assimilated. Ben looked at his deteriorating duplicate with sudden clarity. You're dying. The transformation is breaking down your molecular structure. But you don't care, do you? You think Nexus will save you. I will be reborn, Nexform insisted, though uncertainty flickered in his voice. Ascended beyond this limited form. Is that what Ian promised? Ben pressed. Because I've met plenty of cosmic entities that make big promises to their followers. Funny how those followers always end up as disposable pawns. Something changed in Nexform's expression, doubt, perhaps, or fear. The corrupted Ben looked toward the vortex, where tendrils of Nexus's essence had begun reaching through. I chose this, he said, less certain now. I was promised power. And you got it, Ben acknowledged. But at what cost? Look at yourself. Look at what you've become. Nexform's unstable form flickered more violently, parts of his energy body dissipating entirely. His gaze met Ben's, and for a moment, recognition passed between them, not as enemies, but as two versions of the same person who had made different choices. How do we stop it? Nexform finally asked, his voice barely audible. The Omnitrixes, Ben replied without hesitation. They're linked now. If we can reverse the polarity of the connection, we'd create a feedback loop, Nexform finished, understanding immediately. Collapse the vortex from both sides. It might work, Ben confirmed. But I'll need your help. Across the chamber, Saitama and Genos were fighting a losing battle against the tendrils emerging from the vortex. Saitama's punches severed them easily, but more kept coming, each one larger than the last. Nexform looked at his disintegrating hands, then at the approaching form of Nexus. If I help you, I die. This form won't survive a polarity reversal. You're dying anyway, Ben said bluntly but not unkindly. At least this way, it means something. A long moment passed before the corrupted Ben nodded. What do we do? Ben reverted to human form, exposing the Omnitrix. Connect your Omnitrix to mine. Think of the master control sequence. Focus on reversing the dimensional frequency. Nexform approached, his energy form barely maintaining coherence. He placed his deteriorating hand over Ben's Omnitrix, his own corrupted version aligning with it. Both devices began to pulse in synchrony, green and purple energy intermingling. I'm sorry, the corrupted Ben whispered. For what it's worth. I wanted to be a hero too, once. You still can be, Ben replied. Right now. Together, they focused on the Omnitrixes, mentally projecting the reversal sequence. The devices responded, their energy patterns shifting, realigning. The link between them strengthened, but now flowed in the opposite direction. Instead of opening a path for Nexus, it was creating a repulsive force. The vortex shuddered, its edges becoming unstable. Nexus's mental voice boomed in their minds, now tinged with rage and something Ben hadn't expected, fear. What are you doing? Stop. The convergence cannot be reversed. Watch us, Ben grunted, maintaining his focus despite the pain shooting up his arm. Nexform's body was coming apart more rapidly now, entire portions dissolving into the air as he channeled his remaining energy into the reversal. Yet he held on, his expression set in determination. The vortex began collapsing inward, Nexus's massive form receding as the connection weakened. It fought against the collapse, tentacles of void matter grasping at the edges of reality, trying to maintain its hold. It's working. Genos called out. The dimensional breach is contracting. One final push, Ben urged his counterpart. Everything you've got. Nexform nodded, his features barely recognizable now. Together. In perfect synchrony, they activated the final sequence. The Omnitrixes flared with blinding light, energy arcing between them in a perfect circuit. The corrupted device on Nexform's wrist shattered, releasing a pulse of purified green energy that shot into the vortex like a lance. Nexus howled, a sound not heard but felt, reverberating through the fabric of reality itself. The vortex collapsed with explosive force, sending a shockwave that threw everyone except Saitama to the ground. When Ben's vision cleared, the vortex was gone. Where Nexform had stood was nothing but dissipating energy, a faint smile visible in its pattern for just a moment before it vanished completely. Did we win? Saitama asked, looking almost disappointed. Genos scanned the area with his sensors. Dimensional energy readings are returning to background levels. The breach appears fully closed. Ben checked the Omnitrix, which had reverted to its normal green glow. We closed this breach, but Nexus is still out there. And there are 6 other generator sites. The association reports similar closures at all locations, Genos announced, receiving updates through his internal communications. The breaches are sealing themselves. The network collapsed, Ben realized. When we reversed the polarity here, it created a cascade effect through all connected points. They turned to where Ian had fallen, only to find the villain gone, escaped during the chaos, no doubt. He'll be back, Ben sighed. He always is. Next time, I'll punch him harder, Saitama promised. As they exited the facility, emergency vehicles and association personnel were arriving in force. Metal Knight's drones circled overhead, scanning for residual dimensional energy. One descended to hover before them. Dimensional anomalies are dissipating worldwide, Metal Knight's voice reported through the drone. Your method was unorthodox but effective. Thanks, I guess, Ben replied warily. However, the scientist continued, my analysis indicates this was merely a setback for the entity you call Nexus. The dimensional barriers remain weakened. Future incursions are probable. We'll be ready, Genos stated firmly. Indeed. The drone sensors focused on Ben's Omnitrix. The role of your device in both causing and resolving this crisis raises significant questions. I would still strongly recommend, not happening, Ben cut him off. The Omnitrix stays with me. As you wish. The drone ascended again. But this conversation is not over. As Metal Knight's drone departed, Ben couldn't help feeling the scientist was right about one thing, this was just the beginning. Nexus had been thwarted, not defeated. And its connection to the Omnitrix remained a disturbing mystery. You look troubled, Genos observed as they walked away from the facility. My duplicate, Ben explained. He was me, just a different version who made different choices. It's unsettling. Yet in the end, he chose correctly, Genos pointed out. Perhaps that says something fundamental about who you are, across all possible timelines. Maybe. Ben wasn't entirely convinced. Or maybe it just means anyone can be corrupted under the right circumstances. Saitama, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. That evil space monster thing. It'll try again, right? Almost certainly, Ben confirmed. Good. Saitama's face split into a rare genuine smile. It actually looked strong. Maybe it'll give me a real fight next time. Ben laughed despite himself. Only you would look forward to fighting an interdimensional reality-consuming entity, Saitama. What can I say? The bald hero shrugged. I'm always looking for a challenge. As they made their way back to City Z, reports came in from across the world of the dimensional rifts closing simultaneously. The immediate crisis had passed, but Ben knew better than to celebrate too soon. Nexus had revealed itself, and its interest in the Omnitrix, for a reason. Whatever that reason was, it spelled trouble for both his adopted dimension and his home universe. For now, though, they had earned a moment of respite. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new strategies for defending against Nexus's next attempt. But tonight, Ben was content to walk alongside his unlikely allies, a bored hero of unimaginable strength and a serious cyborg disciple, and appreciate the strange new bonds he had formed in this bizarre dimension. "Anyone else hungry?" Saitama asked suddenly. "Saving the world always makes me want Udon." "Food would be optimal for recovery," Genos agreed. Ben smiled, feeling the weight of the day's events begin to lift. "Udon sounds perfect." As they headed toward Saitama's favorite noodle shop, the last light of day catching on the Omnitrix's green surface, Ben felt something he hadn't experienced since arriving in this dimension, a sense of belonging. He was still a stranger in a strange world, but he was no longer alone. Somewhere across the dimensional void, Nexus waited, plotting its next move. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight was for Udon, friends, and the quiet satisfaction of a world saved, at least for now. Chapter 3, Beyond One Punch. 3 days after closing the dimensional rifts, an uneasy calm settled over the world. The Hero Association had downgraded the threat level from God to Dragon, believing the worst had passed. But Ben knew better. He sat cross-legged on the roof of Saitama's apartment building, eyes closed in concentration as the Omnitrix projected a holographic display of swirling energy patterns. After the battle at the power plant, Ben had discovered a new function. The device had somehow retained data about Nexus and the dimensional breaches, allowing him to analyze the entity's quantum signature. "Still at it?" Saitama's voice broke his concentration. The bald hero settled beside him, munching on a bag of chips. "Find anything good?" Ben sighed, shutting down the hologram. "Nothing helpful. Nexus is unlike any entity I've encountered before. It exists between dimensions, not fully in any single reality." "Sounds complicated." Saitama offered the chip bag. "Want some?" "Thanks." Ben took a handful, grateful for the distraction. "The association thinks we've won, but all we did was close one door. Nexus will find another way in." Saitama crunched thoughtfully. "So what's the plan?" "Wait for the next attack." "That's what bothers me." Ben frowned, staring at the horizon where City J's silhouette was just visible. "Why wait? If I were Nexus, I'd strike again immediately, while everyone's celebrating." As if summoned by his words, the Omnitrix suddenly flared with purple light. Ben jumped to his feet as the device emitted a high-pitched warning tone. Is it supposed to do that?" Saitama asked, rising more casually. "No." Ben's expression darkened as he examined the display. "It's detecting quantum fluctuations. Massive ones." The sky above them shimmered, reality itself seeming to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. A thin line of purple energy appeared, stretching from horizon to horizon. "That can't be good," Saitama observed. The line widened, becoming a tier that revealed glimpses of another reality beyond, alien landscapes, strange structures, and swirling void matter. More tiers appeared, crisscrossing the sky like cracks in a broken windshield. Ben's hero phone buzzed frantically with incoming alerts. He checked it to find reports flooding in from around the globe, identical tiers appearing everywhere simultaneously. "It's happening," he said grimly. "Nexus is trying a different approach. Instead of creating localized breaches, it's fracturing the dimensional barrier globally." "So punching these cracks won't fix it?" Saitama asked, looking slightly disappointed. "I don't think punching is the answer this time." Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through alien forms. "We need to get to the association headquarters. If anyone has the resources to monitor this, it's them." Saitama nodded. "I'll get Genos." Ben transformed into XLR-8, his velociraptor-like form tensing to run. "Meet you there." He sped through the streets of City Z, weaving between panicked civilians who pointed at the fracturing sky. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest pulsed with alternating green and purple light, responding to the dimensional distortions. The Hero Association headquarters was in chaos when he arrived. Heroes of all classes rushed in and out, receiving emergency assignments as staff struggled to coordinate the global response. Ben reverted to human form just as Saitama and Genos landed nearby. "The situation is deteriorating rapidly," Genos reported, his sensors scanning the sky. "Dimensional fractures are appearing at an exponential rate." They pushed through the crowded lobby to the command center, where Director Sitch was coordinating with Metal Knight and other S-class heroes. "Ben 10, Sitch acknowledged grimly. "I assume your device warned you?" "The Omnitrix is linked to the dimensional energy somehow," Ben confirmed. "Nexus is trying a different strategy, weakening the entire barrier between dimensions rather than creating localized breaches." Metal Knight's primary robot turned toward them. "My analysis confirms this assessment. The dimensional membrane is thinning globally. Complete collapse estimated within 6 hours. Can't we just close the fractures like last time?" Atomic Samurai asked, his hand resting on his sword hilt. "These aren't generated by technology," Ben explained. "Nexus is applying pressure from its side of reality, exploiting the weaknesses we created when we closed the rifts." "Then how do we stop it?" Tornado of Terror demanded, her small form floating irritably above the strategy table. Before anyone could answer, the building shook violently. Alarms blared as the command center screens showed a massive dimensional tear opening directly above the headquarters. "Incoming," someone shouted. The ceiling exploded inward as something massive forced its way through the tear. When the dust settled, Ben found himself facing a nightmarish sight, Ian, but transformed almost beyond recognition. His armor had merged with his body, pulsing with void matter that stretched and distorted his form. Multiple limbs extended from his torso, each ending in weaponized temporal technology. "Greetings, heroes," Ian's voice echoed unnaturally, overlaid with another, deeper tone that Ben recognized as Nexus. "Your resistance ends today." "Ian," Ben stepped forward. "What has it done to you?" The transformed villain laughed, the sound distorting the air around him. "Done. It has perfected me. Nexus has granted me dominion over all time and all dimensions." "Looks more like it's wearing you like a puppet," Ben retorted. "You're just another tool to it, like my duplicate was." Ian's multiple arms raised simultaneously, temporal energy gathering at their tips. "Your understanding is limited, Tennyson. Soon, all will be Nexus. All dimensions, all timelines, converged into perfect unity." "Yeah, not happening." Saitama stepped up beside Ben, cracking his knuckles. "You still talk too much." Ian fired a barrage of temporal blasts that froze patches of reality wherever they struck. Association staff caught in the effect became motionless statues. The gathered S-class heroes scattered, engaging the monstrous villain from multiple angles. Bang and Atomic Samurai attacked with coordinated precision, their martial arts and swordsmanship slicing through 2 of Ian's extra limbs. Tornado of Terror unleashed her psychic might, attempting to crush the villain with telekinetic force. But Ian simply laughed, his severed limbs regenerating instantly while Tornado's power washed over him with minimal effect. "Your physical attacks are meaningless against one who controls time itself," he boasted. "I can simply reverse any damage you inflict." Ben transformed into Diamond Head, his crystalline body refracting the temporal energy when Ian fired at him. "Guys, fall back. Normal attacks won't work on him." "Then what will?" Genos demanded, blasting Ian with his incineration cannons to little effect. "The Omnitrix," Ben realized. "It's the only thing that can counter temporal manipulation." Saitama, who had been observing the battle with unusual patience, suddenly moved. His incredible speed carried him past Ian's defenses before the villain could react, landing a punch that actually staggered the temporal monster. "Impossible." Ian snarled, focusing his attacks on Saitama. "No physical force can affect me in this form." I get that a lot, Saitama replied casually, dodging temporal blasts with apparent ease. You're still solid enough to punch, though. While Saitama kept Ian distracted, Ben approached Genos. We need to coordinate. The Omnitrix can disrupt his temporal field, but I need time to get close. Genos nodded. I will provide covering fire. But Ben, my sensors detect that the dimensional fractures are accelerating. This battle is merely a diversion. I know, Ben agreed grimly. Nexus is using Ian to keep us busy while it completes the convergence. A plan formed in Ben's mind, desperate and dangerous, but possibly their only option. He transformed from Diamond Head to Upgrade, his liquid metal form rippling with technological potential. Genos, I need to interface with your systems, Ben explained quickly. With your energy output and my technological control, we might be able to create a counter-frequency to the dimensional fractures. The cyborg hesitated only briefly before nodding. Proceed. My core can withstand significant power fluctuations. Ben flowed over Genos, his galvanic mechamorph form integrating with the cyborg's advanced technology. The merge was instantaneous, Ben's consciousness extending through Genos's systems, upgrading and enhancing every component. Genos's body transformed, growing larger and more complex as green circuit patterns spread across his chrome surface. His incineration cannons evolved into dimensional stabilizers, drawing power directly from his core. This is remarkable, Genos's voice overlapped with Ben's as they spoke in unison. Your technological integration capabilities exceed all known parameters. It's a temporary merge, Ben explained through their shared consciousness. But it should give us enough firepower to counter Ian while addressing the dimensional fractures. Their merged form raised its enhanced cannons, targeting not Ian, but the dimensional tear above the headquarters. Energy gathered, green and blue swirling together as the stabilizers charged. What are you doing? Ian demanded, suddenly concerned. He broke away from his battle with Saitama, multiple arms firing temporal blasts at the merged heroes. Saitama intercepted the attacks, his fists somehow dispersing the temporal energy through sheer force. Keep going, he called to Ben and Genos. I've got this guy. The stabilizers reached full charge, unleashing twin beams of energy that struck the dimensional tear. Instead of closing it, however, the energy expanded the breach, forcing it wider. Are you insane? Director Sitch shouted. You're making it worse. Trust us, Ben/Genos replied calmly. Sometimes you have to make a controlled burn to stop a wildfire. The tear expanded further, revealing the swirling void matter of Nexus's dimension beyond. And there, at the center of the chaotic reality, was Nexus itself, a massive, shifting entity composed of countless assimilated lifeforms surrounding a core of pure void. Tennyson, the entity's mental voice boomed across dimensions. You invite your own destruction. Actually, Ben/Genos replied, we're inviting you to a fair fight. With precise control, they adjusted the stabilizer beams, creating a corridor of stable space between dimensions. Nexus, sensing an opportunity to finally enter their reality completely, surged forward into the breach. Ben, what are you doing? Metal Knight demanded. You're giving it exactly what it wants. No, Saitama suddenly understood, a rare smile crossing his face. He's drawing it out where I can hit it. Indeed, as Nexus poured through the dimensional corridor, its vast form became increasingly physical, bound by the laws of their reality. The entity struggled to maintain its transdimensional nature, parts of it solidifying while others remained energy-based. Now! Ben shouted, separating from Genos in a flash of green light. He immediately transformed into XLR-8, racing to Saitama's side. Hit it while it's still materializing. Saitama needed no further encouragement. He launched himself upward with enough force to shatter the floor beneath him, rocketing toward the partially materialized Nexus with his fist drawn back. Serious punch. The impact was catastrophic. Saitama's fist connected with Nexus's materializing core, sending shockwaves that shattered every window in City A. The entity shrieked, a sound that transcended normal hearing and reverberated directly in their minds. But to everyone's shock, including Saitama's, Nexus didn't disintegrate. Though clearly damaged, the entity's form simply rippled around the impact point, absorbing and distributing the force throughout its massive body. "No way," Saitama landed beside Ben, genuine surprise on his face. "It took my serious punch." "Fool," Nexus's mental voice now carried a hint of pain, but also triumph. "I have consumed entities far more powerful than you. I adapt. I evolve. I assimilate." Before their eyes, Nexus's form began changing, developing muscle structures reminiscent of Saitama's, its way of adapting to the incredible strength it had just experienced. "That's not good," Ben muttered, reverting to human form as Genos rejoined them. "No physical attack will be effective now," Genos analyzed. "It is already developing immunity to Master's strength." Ian, still in his monstrous form, laughed maniacally. "You've played directly into Nexus's hands. Now nothing can stop the convergence." The dimensional fractures across the sky began pulsing in unison, aligning into a precise geometric pattern. The world itself groaned as reality began to warp, buildings and streets stretching and distorting as two dimensions started to merge. "We're out of time," Metal Knight's robot announced coldly. "Dimensional collapse has begun." Chaos erupted as heroes and association staff fled the crumbling headquarters. Tatsumaki used her powers to hold the structure together while evacuations proceeded, her small form straining against the collapsing reality. In the midst of the chaos, Ben grabbed Saitama's arm, pulling him aside. "Listen to me. This isn't a fight you can win with strength alone." "Then how?" For once, Saitama's casual demeanor had fallen away, replaced by genuine concern. "If I can't punch it?" "You need to understand what we're really fighting," Ben explained urgently. "Nexus isn't just a physical entity, it's a dimensional constant seeking equilibrium. It doesn't just want to destroy or conquer, it wants to become everything. Like a cosmic vacuum cleaner?" Saitama frowned. "More like a virus," Ben corrected. "It infects realities, merges them, converts their essence into its own. And it's been doing this for eons, dimension after dimension." Genos joined them, his system struggling against the dimensional distortions. "My analysis suggests the convergence is approximately 23% complete. Full merger estimated in 17 minutes. Ben looked up at the materializing Nexus, then at his Omnitrix, which continued to pulse with alternating green and purple light. A desperate plan formed in his mind. "Saitama, I need you to hit it again, not to destroy it, but to distract it," Ben instructed. "Genos, gather every S-class hero who can still fight. I need them to target Ian simultaneously." "What will you do?" Genos asked. Ben's expression turned resolute. "Something really stupid or really brilliant. I haven't decided which yet." As his allies moved to execute their parts of the plan, Ben took a moment to examine the Omnitrix. Since their battle with Ian at the power plant, the device had been changed, not damaged, but altered at a fundamental level. Its connection to Nexus went deeper than he'd initially realized. "Azimuth would kill me for this," he muttered, manipulating the Omnitrix's core in a specific pattern. The faceplate slid back, revealing the device's quantum matrix, the heart of its dimensional technology. Across the disintegrating command center, Saitama launched another attack against Nexus, this time using his Serious series, consecutive serious punches. The barrage of blows forced the entity to focus on defending itself, temporarily diverting its attention from the convergence process. Simultaneously, Genos coordinated an all-out assault on Ian from the remaining S-class heroes. Atomic Samurai, Bang, Metal Bat, and others unleashed their ultimate techniques, overwhelming the temporal villain's defenses through sheer diversity of attacks. Ben took advantage of the distraction, transforming into gray matter, his Galvan form providing the enhanced intelligence he needed for what came next. The tiny alien immediately began reconfiguring the exposed Omnitrix matrix, his fingers moving with incredible precision. Quantum entanglement reversed, he muttered to himself. Dimensional frequency aligned. Now for the tricky part. The headquarters shook violently as reality continued to fracture. Outside, the sky had become a kaleidoscope of colliding dimensions, patches of alien landscapes and void space merging with Earth's atmosphere. Gray matter completed his modifications and transformed back into Ben's human form. The Omnitrix now glowed with intense green energy, its symbol altered to display a pattern Ben had never seen before. "It's ready," he called to Saitama and Genos. "Get back." The bald hero disengaged from his assault on Nexus, landing beside Ben with unusual gravity. "Whatever you're planning, it better work. This thing is actually getting stronger from my punches now." "That's because it assimilates everything it encounters," Ben explained. "But that's also its weakness. It can't help but absorb, integrate, become." "So how does that help us?" Genos asked. Ben raised his wrist, showing the modified Omnitrix. "By giving it exactly what it wants, but on our terms." Without further explanation, Ben activated the device. The Omnitrix projected a beam of pure green energy directly at Nexus, establishing a connection between them. Immediately, Ben gasped in pain as the entity's consciousness began flowing into his mind. "Ben!" Saitama moved to intervene, but Genos held him back. "Wait, Master. I believe I understand his strategy." Ben struggled to remain standing as Nexus's vast awareness pressed against his consciousness. The entity's surprise was palpable, it had expected to find technology, not a direct mental link. "What is this deception?" Nexus demanded. "The Omnitrix was to be my key." "It is," Ben managed through gritted teeth. "Just not the way you thought." With tremendous effort, Ben activated the final sequence. The Omnitrix flared blindingly as it executed the modified program, not to transform Ben into an alien, but to establish a dimensional bridge using his mind as the conduit. "The Omnitrix doesn't just contain DNA samples," Ben explained, his voice strained but determined. "It contains the fundamental patterns of life itself, the building blocks of entire ecosystems across my universe." Understanding dawned in Nexus's mental voice. "The codon stream. The source of all transformations." "Exactly," Ben confirmed. "You wanted the Omnitrix as a shortcut to assimilating all life. Well, here it is, but you're getting more than you bargained for." Through their connection, Ben began channeling not just the Omnitrix's DNA catalog, but the fundamental life energy of his home dimension, the same energy that had transformed him countless times, that had rebuilt his body from scratch when necessary, that carried the spark of creation itself. Nexus greedily absorbed this energy, its form growing more defined, more solid as it incorporated the patterns flowing from the Omnitrix. But as it did, something unexpected happened, the entity began to change, not just physically but fundamentally. "What's happening to it?" Saitama asked, watching in fascination as Nexus's form shifted from chaotic void matter to something more organized, more alive. "The Omnitrix doesn't just transform," Genos realized, his scanners detecting the changes. "It optimizes. It creates the ideal version of each species. And Nexus is getting a full dose of that optimization," Ben confirmed, sweat pouring down his face as he maintained the connection. "It wanted to consume life, now it's becoming life." The entity writhed as its nature was forcibly transformed. The void at its core began to fill with the same green energy that powered the Omnitrix, spreading outward through its assimilated components. "No!" Ian screamed, breaking free from the hero's assault. "You're ruining everything. Nexus was to consume all, not become part of it." The temporal villain launched himself at Ben, determined to break the connection. Saitama intercepted him with casual ease, catching his multiple arms in one hand. "You talk too much," Saitama said simply, before delivering a punch that finally shattered Ian's transformed body, reducing him to unconscious human form. The dimensional fractures began to stabilize as Nexus's transformation continued. The entity no longer sought to consume and merge realities, instead, it was being fundamentally reprogrammed by the Omnitrix's life optimization protocols. Ben felt his strength failing as the process neared completion. The connection was draining his life force along with the Omnitrix's power. Ben, your vital signs are critical, Genos warned. You must break the connection. Can't, Ben gasped. Not, finished. Saitama placed a hand on Ben's shoulder, his face uncharacteristically serious. Let me help. To Genos's astonishment, Saitama began channeling his seemingly limitless strength into Ben, stabilizing him. The energy flow from the Omnitrix intensified, accelerating Nexus's transformation. The pain, Nexus's mental voice had changed, becoming less alien, more human. What is happening to me? You're being reborn, Ben explained through their connection. The Omnitrix doesn't just contain DNA, it contains the potential for life to exist in harmony. That's what its creator designed it for. The entity that had been Nexus continued to transform, its massive form condensing, becoming more defined, more individual rather than a collective of consumed beings. The void at its core was replaced by a pulsing green energy matrix similar to the Omnitrix itself. As the transformation neared completion, Ben made a final adjustment to the connection. It's time for you to go home, not to consume dimensions, but to heal them. With a supreme effort, Ben reversed the energy flow, sending the transformed entity back through the dimensional corridor. As it retreated, the fractures in reality began to seal themselves, dimensions separating and stabilizing. The connection finally broke, and Ben collapsed to his knees, the Omnitrix smoking on his wrist. Saitama caught him before he could hit the ground. Did it work? Ben asked weakly. See for yourself, Saitama pointed upward. The sky was returning to normal, the tears sealing like wounds healing themselves. Where Nexus had been, a new entity now hovered, smaller, more defined, emanating green energy similar to the Omnitrix. Benjamin Tennyson, the entity's mental voice was gentler now, though still immensely powerful. You have remade me. I gave you a choice, Ben replied, struggling to his feet with Saitama's help. The Omnitrix doesn't just transform bodies, it carries the potential for change, for growth, for life to find balance. I understand now. The entity surveyed the healing dimension around it. For eons I consumed, believing unity could only come through assimilation. But there is another way. Life finds its own balance, Ben agreed. Different species, different worlds, even different dimensions, they don't need to be forced into one form to coexist. The entity that had been Nexus pulsed with acknowledgement. I shall return to the void between dimensions. Not to consume, but to heal the damage I have caused. Perhaps, in time, to build bridges rather than destroy barriers. That would be nice, Saitama commented. Less punching required. The entity seemed to consider Saitama with newfound respect. One Punch Man. Your strength defies dimensional constants. A mystery for another time, perhaps. With that, the entity ascended, passing through a final dimensional tear that sealed itself behind it. The sky cleared completely, returning to the perfect blue of a summer day. For a moment, there was silence. Then cheers erupted from the gathered heroes and association staff as they realized the crisis had passed. The headquarters was damaged but standing, and reality had stabilized. Ben looked down at the Omnitrix, which had gone completely dark. I think I broke it. After saving 2 dimensions, I think you're entitled, Genos remarked with unusual warmth. Director Sitch approached them, his normally composed demeanor showing visible relief. I don't fully understand what you did, Ben 10, but the association owes you a debt of gratitude. Not just me, Ben gestured to Saitama and Genos. We did it together. Metal Knight's robot hovered nearby, its sensors focused on the darkened Omnitrix. Fascinating. You sacrificed your device's functionality to reprogram the entity. A unexpected solution. Not sacrificed, Ben corrected, as the Omnitrix suddenly emitted a faint beep. The Omnitrix has failsafes. It's just rebooting. I hope. As if in response, the device gave another beep, its display flickering weakly to life. But instead of its normal interface, it displayed a holographic message, one that made Ben's heart skip a beat. Dimensional coordinates located, he read aloud. Home universe identified. It found your way back, Saitama realized, his expression unreadable. Ben stared at the display in disbelief. For weeks, he'd been searching for a way home, and now, unexpectedly, the solution had presented itself. The Omnitrix had somehow mapped the dimensional pathways during its connection with Nexus. I can go home, he said softly, emotions conflicting within him. When? Genos asked. The Omnitrix display showed a timer counting down. Looks like about 6 hours. The device needs to recharge enough power for the dimensional jump. Sitch cleared his throat. The association would be disappointed to lose such a valuable hero. But we understand your desire to return home. The next few hours passed in a blur of debriefings, medical checks, and hasty goodbyes. The news of Ben's imminent departure spread quickly through the hero community, many coming to thank him personally for his role in saving their world. As the deadline approached, Ben found himself back on the roof of Saitama's apartment building, watching the sunset with the bald hero and Genos. They sat in comfortable silence, sharing one last meal together. Saitama had insisted on udon, claiming no one should travel between dimensions on an empty stomach. So, Saitama finally spoke, slurping noodles. Going home. Yeah. Ben glanced at the Omnitrix, its countdown showing less than 30 minutes remaining. It's weird. A month ago, getting home was all I could think about. Now. You have formed attachments here, Genos observed. That is natural. Ben smiled. I guess I have. This place is crazy, with its monster attacks and hero rankings and corporate sponsorships. But there's something honest about it too. Honest? Saitama raised an eyebrow. People here understand that sometimes the world needs saving, Ben explained. Back home, I spent half my time hiding my identity, pretending to be normal. Here, being a hero is just a job. A weird job, but still. A job that doesn't pay enough, Saitama grumbled good-naturedly. The Omnitrix beeped, indicating 10 minutes remaining. Ben stood up, looking out over City Z one last time. The setting sun painted the skyline in orange and gold, surprisingly beautiful for a place that regularly faced monster attacks. I'm going to miss this, he admitted. Miss you guys. You could stay, Saitama suggested casually. We make a pretty good team. Ben considered it for a moment. The thought was tempting, to remain in this strange world where he'd found new purpose, new friends, new challenges. But I have family waiting for me, he said finally. People who don't know if I'm alive or dead. And my universe has its own threats that need handling. Genos nodded in understanding. The duty of a hero transcends personal desires. Something like that. Ben extended his hand to Genos, who shook it firmly. Take care of this bald idiot for me, will you? Hey, Saitama protested mildly. I shall continue learning from Master's wisdom, Genos promised solemnly. Ben turned to Saitama, suddenly unsure what to say. How did you thank someone who had helped you save multiple dimensions? Who had taken you in when you were lost between realities? Saitama solved the problem by simply offering a fist bump. Don't get dramatic. If those dimension things ever break again, maybe I'll end up in your world next time. Ben bumped his fist, grinning. God help the villains if that happens. The Omnitrix beeped urgently as the countdown reached 1 minute. Green energy began to swirl around Ben, the device preparing for the dimensional jump. I left something for you with Dr. Casino, Ben called over the growing energy hum. Nothing fancy, just a modified communicator. Probably won't work across dimensions, but, who knows? We will remember your contributions, Ben Tennyson, Geno said formally. The Hero Association has officially ranked US class in absentia. Tell them thanks, but... Ben's voice began to fade as the energy intensified. Rankings never really mattered much to me anyway. The green energy enveloped him completely, becoming a swirling vortex that stretched upward into the darkening sky. The last thing Ben saw before the dimensional shift completed was Saitama raising a hand in farewell, a rare genuine smile on his face. Then everything twisted, stretched, and compressed all at once as Ben felt himself hurled across the dimensional void, the Omnitrix guiding him home like a cosmic GPS. The journey seemed both instantaneous and eternal, reality itself bending around him. With a thunderous crack and a flash of green light, Ben Tennyson crashed into the ground of a familiar forest clearing. He lay there for a moment, disoriented, before recognizing where he was, the same location he'd chased Ian to, what felt like a lifetime ago. Ben! A familiar voice called out, and he looked up to see Gwen running toward him, her hands glowing with mana. Kevin and Rook followed close behind, weapons drawn. Guys? Ben sat up groggily. How long was I gone? 3 days, Gwen replied, helping him to his feet. We've been searching non-stop since you disappeared through Ian's portal. 3 days? Ben couldn't believe it. I was in that dimension for over a month. Dimensional time dilation, Rook observed. Fascinating. Kevin looked Ben up and down. You look different. What happened in there? Ben glanced at the Omnitrix, now functioning normally again, and smiled. It's a long story. Involving a bald guy who can end fights with one punch, a cyborg with serious attachment issues, and an interdimensional entity that wanted to eat reality. His friends exchanged confused glances. Maybe start from the beginning, Gwen suggested. Ben nodded, looking up at the stars appearing in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, across dimensions, a world continued spinning, a world of hero rankings and monster attacks, of corporate sponsorships and ridiculous costumes. A world he'd helped save, alongside the most unlikely of allies. Well, he began with a smile, it all started when I fell out of the sky into a place called City Z. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.